6 months after the initial invasion, the world had transformed into something unrecognizable. The great cities of Earth still stood, but they were no longer human domains. Massive organic structures had grown among the skyscrapers, living buildings that pulsed with alien life, their surfaces covered in patterns that hurt human eyes to look upon. In what had once been London, War Chief Thok surveyed his new domain from atop the Tower of London. The ancient fortress had been converted into his command center, its stone walls now interwoven with the same organic technology that powered the Orc fleet. The Thames flowed black beneath alien bridges that seemed to breathe with their own rhythm. "The resistance continues to cause problems," reported Scarl the Flesh Ripper, his scarred face grim with frustration. "They struck 3 supply convoys last week. Our losses are significant." Thok's massive hands gripped the organic railing of his observation platform. The humans had proven more resilient than expected. Their initial defeat had been total, but like a hydra, they had regrown their fighting capacity from the shadows. "What of the collaboration government?" he asked. "Prime Minister Harrison continues to cooperate. The human administration is functional, but their authority is limited. Most humans view them as traitors." Thok nodded slowly. The collaborative government had been a necessity. Orcs understood war and conquest, but the subtle complexities of governing a civilian population were beyond their experience. Better to let the humans manage their own kind, under Orc supervision. "And the breeding programs?" Scarl's expression darkened. "Proceeding slowly. The human females are fragile. Many do not survive the process. The hybrids that are born are weak, unsuitable for warriors." This was the greatest challenge facing the Orc occupation. Their species was dying out. The endless wars on Garath had reduced their numbers to unsustainable levels. The plan had been to interbreed with humans, creating a new generation that combined Orc strength with human adaptability. But the biological incompatibilities were proving nearly insurmountable. "Continue the experiments," Thok ordered. "Our survival depends on it." A new voice interrupted their discussion. "War Chief, there is another way." Both Orcs turned to see Grandmother Ashka approaching, her ancient form moving with the slow dignity of age. The old seer had grown even more frail during the journey to Earth, but her mind remained sharp. "Speak, Grandmother. The humans have a saying, if you cannot beat them, join them. Perhaps we have been approaching this problem incorrectly." Thok's tusk showed in what might have been a smile. "You suggest we become more like them? I suggest we learn from them. Their technology, their science, their ways of thinking. We have conquered their world, but we have not truly understood it. Perhaps understanding is the key to survival." Before Thok could respond, an alarm began sounding throughout the fortress. The organic walls pulsed with warning lights, and the taste of danger filled the air. "Report!" Thok commanded. An Orc warrior burst into the chamber, his armor smoking from recent battle. "War Chief! The humans have launched a coordinated attack on the processing centers. They're using some kind of biological weapon." Thok's blood ran cold. The processing centers were where human captives were prepared for the breeding programs. If the humans had developed a biological weapon effective against Orc physiology. "Losses? 17 facilities destroyed, War Chief. The warriors stationed there, they died screaming. Their armor, their weapons, their very flesh, it all dissolved." Grandmother Ashka's eyes widened with sudden understanding. "They have turned our own nature against us. The organic technology that makes us strong also makes us vulnerable." Thok's massive form seemed to swell with rage. "Summon the War Council. The humans have chosen war over servitude. We will show them the price of defiance." But even as he spoke, Thok felt a cold certainty settling in his chest. The humans had struck at the heart of Orc vulnerability. If they could mass-produce this biological weapon, the occupation would become untenable. The survivors of Garath might have escaped one dying world only to perish on another. Meanwhile, in the hidden depths of the London Underground, the remnants of human civilization planned their next move. The Resistance had established a network of tunnels and bunkers throughout the city, invisible to Orc sensors but connected by fiber optic cables that allowed instant communication. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as the Resistance's chief scientist, studied the latest reports from the biological weapons test with grim satisfaction. The pathogen she developed was brutally effective. It attacked the organic components of Orc technology, causing their weapons and armor to literally dissolve. The test was successful, she reported to the assembled resistance leaders. The pathogen spreads through contact with Orc technology. Within hours, their entire operational capacity in the target area was neutralized. Colonel Mitchell, now bearing the scars of 6 months of guerrilla warfare, nodded approvingly. Casualties? Minimal on our side. The pathogen is specifically designed to target the alien organic compounds. It's harmless to human tissue. And the Orcs themselves? Elena's expression grew troubled. The weapon affects their technology, but not their biology directly. However, many of the Orcs are so integrated with their technology that the line between flesh and machine has blurred. When their organic armor dissolves, they're left vulnerable to conventional weapons. The Resistance had learned much about their enemies over the months of occupation. The Orcs were not merely using biological technology, they were becoming it. Their weapons were extensions of their bodies, their armor a second skin that enhanced their natural abilities. The pathogen struck at the very foundation of Orc civilization. Ma'am, interrupted Lieutenant Hayes, who had escaped the fall of Cheyenne Mountain and now served as the Resistance's communications officer. We're receiving reports from Resistance cells worldwide. The weapon is being mass-produced in facilities across 3 continents. We could deploy it globally within weeks. Mitchell felt the weight of the decision before them. The biological weapon could potentially drive the Orcs from Earth entirely. But it would also mean the death of millions of sentient beings whose only crime was seeking a new home after their world died. There's another consideration, Elena added quietly. The Orcs have been trying to crossbreed with humans. Our intelligence suggests they're facing extinction. This weapon could be the final blow that destroys their species entirely. The room fell silent. The moral implications were staggering. Humanity had the power to commit genocide against an entire species. The question was whether they should use it. General Zhang always said we should be willing to become monsters to save our species, Mitchell said finally. But she also said we should never forget what we were fighting to preserve. If we use this weapon, we save humanity. But do we save our humanity? The debate that followed would determine the fate of 2 civilizations. On one side, those who argued for the complete destruction of the Orc presence on Earth. On the other, those who believed that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its weapons, but in its capacity for mercy. As the discussion continued deep into the night, either side knew that their words were being monitored by Orc intelligence. The Resistance had been infiltrated, and their greatest weapon had been compromised before it could be deployed. The next phase of the war was about to begin, and this time, there would be no mercy from either side. The Orc counterattack came at dawn, swift and merciless. Guided by intelligence gathered from their infiltration of the Resistance network, Thok's forces struck at every known human stronghold simultaneously. The underground tunnels that had sheltered the rebellion were flooded with a corrosive gas that dissolved organic matter on contact. Within hours, the heart of human resistance was torn out. Dr. Elena Vasquez died at her workstation, her final act to transmit the biological weapons formula to every remaining resistance cell on Earth. As the Orc gas ate through her protective gear, she managed to send one last message. The pathogen is airborne. God forgive us all. Colonel Mitchell barely escaped the destruction of the London Command Center, emerging into a city transformed by Orc rage. Where once the aliens had shown restraint, now they unleashed the full fury of their military might. Human collaborators were executed alongside resistance fighters. The distinction between combatant and civilian ceased to exist. From his command post in the Tower of London, War Chief Thok watched the systematic destruction of human civilization with mixed emotions. Victory was within his grasp, but at what cost? The very qualities that made humans valuable as a subject species were being eliminated in the brutality of the counterattack. The breeding facilities are secure, reported Mogrim the Iron Belly, his mechanical arms sparking from recent battle damage. But the human females, they're no longer cooperating. Many have chosen death over servitude. Thok's tusks ground together in frustration. And the pathogen? Contained, but not eliminated. The humans managed to deploy it in 17 major population centers before we could stop them. Our forces in those areas are compromised. The biological weapon was proving as devastating as Thok had feared. Entire Orc military units had been rendered helpless as their technology dissolved around them. The organic armor that had made them invincible became their greatest weakness. How long before it spreads to the rest of our forces? The seers estimate 6 months if left unchecked. The pathogen is designed to spread through contact with our technology. Every weapon we use, every ship we board, becomes a vector for infection. Thok turned to Grandmother Ashka, who had remained silent throughout the briefing. The ancient seer's eyes held the wisdom that came from witnessing the rise and fall of civilizations. Grandmother, what do the sight tell you? Ashka's gnarled hands traced patterns in the air, and for a moment, the organic walls of the command center pulsed with otherworldly light. I see 2 paths before us, War Chief. In one, we destroy the humans completely and claim this world as our own. But the path leads to darkness. We become monsters, and our children will inherit a universe of ash and bone. And the other path? We make peace. We find a way to coexist with the humans, to learn from them as they learn from us. The path is difficult, filled with pain and compromise. But it leads to hope. Thok's massive form seemed to deflate slightly. Peace. After all we have done, after all they have suffered, you speak of peace? I speak of survival, War Chief. Not just for our bodies, but for our souls. We came to this world as refugees, seeking a new home. We cannot let our fear turn us into the very monsters we fled from. Before Thok could respond, an urgent communication arrived from the Orc fleet in orbit. The message was brief but devastating. Pathogen has reached the fleet. 17 vessels compromised. Requesting immediate evacuation. The biological weapon had spread faster than anyone had anticipated. The very space-folding technology that had brought the Orcs to Earth was now carrying their destruction back to the stars. If the fleet was lost, the survivors on Earth would be stranded, the last remnant of a dying species with no way home. War Chief, Mogrim said quietly, we need to make a decision. We can sterilize the planet, eliminate every human and every trace of the pathogen. The technology exists. We have the power to turn this world into a lifeless rock. But if we do that, we lose everything we came here to save. Thok finished. A dead world cannot sustain our people. The irony was bitter. The Orcs had the power to destroy humanity completely, but doing so would make their own survival impossible. They needed the humans alive, needed their knowledge and their cooperation. But the trust that could have made coexistence possible had been shattered by months of war and oppression. There is another option, Ashka said quietly. The humans have not yet deployed the pathogen globally. They hold back, perhaps hoping for mercy. If we were to offer genuine peace, not surrender, but partnership, there might still be a chance. Thok's scarred face showed the weight of impossible choices. You asked me to trust the species that would destroy us. I ask you to trust the species that could save us. The humans created this weapon, yes. But they also created the cure. Their biology, their technology, their way of thinking, it could be the key to our survival. The debate that followed would determine the fate of 2 civilizations. Around the organic table in the Tower of London, the survivors of Garath wrestled with questions that had no easy answers. Could species that had spilled each other's blood ever truly coexist? Was survival worth the price of dishonor? And could the wounds of war ever heal? As the discussion continued, neither side knew that deep in the ruins of human civilization, a small group of survivors was preparing one final gambit. Colonel Mitchell, driven by desperation and the weight of his species' possible extinction, had gathered the last remaining biological weapons and was preparing to deploy them not just against the Orcs, but against the entire biosphere of Earth. If humanity could not have their world, then no one could. The final battle was about to begin, and this time, there would be no survivors. The message reached both sides simultaneously, broadcast on every communication channel still functioning on Earth. Colonel Mitchell's voice, worn by months of warfare and heavy with the weight of ultimate decision, echoed across the ravaged planet. This is Colonel James Mitchell of the United Earth Resistance. In 1 hour, we will detonate biological weapons in the planet's major atmospheric circulation points. The pathogen will spread globally within 72 hours. Every orc, every human, every living thing on this world will die. Earth will be sterile within a week. If we cannot have our world, no one can. In the Tower of London, Thok's command center erupted in controlled chaos. The organic walls pulsed with emergency warnings as analysts confirmed the terrible truth. The humans had the capability to carry out their threat. Can we stop them? Thok demanded. Mogrim's mechanical arm whirred as he consulted his displays. Negative, War Chief. The weapons are distributed across the globe, in locations we cannot reach in time. The humans have learned well from our tactics. Grandmother Ashka stepped forward, her ancient eyes bright with sudden understanding. This is not madness, War Chief. This is desperation. The humans are not destroying the world, they are offering us a choice. A choice? Peace, or mutual annihilation. They know we cannot survive on a dead world. They force us to choose between cooperation and death. Thok's massive fists clenched. You would have me negotiate with terrorists? I would have you negotiate with parents who see no future for their children. Is that not what we are as well? The truth of her words struck like a physical blow. The orcs had come to Earth not as conquerors but as refugees, seeking a future for their species. The humans were doing the same thing, choosing death over slavery, mutual destruction over subjugation. Open a channel to the human resistance, Thok ordered. All frequencies. The communication was established within minutes. Colonel Mitchell's scarred face appeared on the screens, his eyes hollow with the weight of what he was about to do. War Chief Thok, Mitchell said, his voice steady despite the circumstances. I assume you've received our message. I have. You would murder your own species to spite us? I would murder both our species to preserve the principle of freedom. My people will not live as slaves. If coexistence is impossible, then we choose extinction. Thok studied the human's face, seeing in it the same desperate determination that had driven the orcs across the void. What do you want? Withdrawal. Complete evacuation of your forces from Earth. We will provide safe passage to orbit, but you must leave and never return. Impossible. My people are dying. Without this world, without your help, we face extinction. Then we all face extinction together. The standoff stretched across minutes that felt like hours. Two species, both facing the end of their existence, locked in a final confrontation that would determine the fate of all life on Earth. It was Grandmother Ashka who broke the silence. May I speak to the human? Thok nodded, and the ancient seer stepped forward. Her voice, when she spoke, carried the weight of ages and the wisdom of civilizations. Colonel Mitchell, I am Grandmother Ashka. I have seen the rise and fall of worlds, the birth and death of species. I have watched the universe burn and seen it reborn from ashes. Will you listen to the words of an old woman who has nothing left to lose? Mitchell's expression softened slightly. I'm listening. Your people and mine are not so different. We both came to this moment through fear, fear of extinction, fear of servitude, fear of a future without hope. But fear is not the only choice. There is another way. And what way is that? Synthesis. Not the domination of one species over another, but the joining of both into something new. Your people have knowledge we need, the secrets of biological engineering, the wisdom of sustainable civilization. We have strength you need, the power to defend this world, the will to ensure its survival. Mitchell's laugh was bitter. After months of war, after all the death and destruction, you speak of cooperation? I speak of evolution. Your species has the capacity to change, to adapt, to become something greater than what you were. So do we. Together, we could create a future neither could achieve alone. And if we refuse? Then we all die, and the universe becomes a little darker. But if we accept, if we choose hope over fear, synthesis over destruction, then perhaps our children will inherit a world worth living in." The silence that followed was pregnant with possibility. On screens across the globe, both species watched as their representatives wrestled with the most important decision in their histories. Finally, Colonel Mitchell spoke. "What exactly are you proposing?" Thok stepped forward, his massive form filling the screen. "Partnership. Not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals. Your scientists work with ours to find solutions to the biological incompatibilities. Your leaders work with ours to build a government that serves both species. Your people and mine learn to live together, not in dominance but in harmony. And if it doesn't work? If our species can't coexist? Then we fail together, but we fail having tried. Surely that is better than succeeding in mutual destruction." Mitchell closed his eyes, the weight of decision heavy on his shoulders. Around the world, the biological weapons waited, ready to sterilize the planet if he gave the word. But somewhere in the darkness of despair, a small light of hope was beginning to glow. "I'll need guarantees," he said finally. "Withdrawal of all military forces to designated zones. Establishment of joint governance committees. Immediate cessation of the breeding programs. And most importantly, any human who chooses to resist the new order will be allowed to leave Earth safely." "Acceptable," Doc replied without hesitation. "But I have conditions as well. Your biological weapon must be destroyed. All of it. The pathogen represents a threat to both our species. It could mutate, spread beyond our control. And we need access to your biological and technological knowledge to ensure our survival." "Also acceptable. But this partnership, it's not just about survival. It's about building something better than either of our species has achieved alone." For the first time in months, Thok's tusk showed in what might have been a genuine smile. "Then let us begin, Colonel. Let us see if two species can learn to build a future together." The transmission ended, but the real work was just beginning. Across the planet, the most unlikely alliance in galactic history was about to be born, forged not from friendship, but from the mutual recognition that cooperation was the only alternative to extinction. 5 years after the Treaty of London, the world had become something neither species could have imagined. The great cities of Earth still stood, but they were no longer purely human or orc constructions. Instead, they had evolved into something unprecedented, organic technological hybrids that drew from both civilizations. Dr. Elena Vasquez, alive despite the reports of her death, having survived the gas attack in a sealed laboratory, stood atop the new London spire, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. The building beneath her feet was a marvel of bioengineering, its living walls capable of photosynthesis, its root systems filtering groundwater, its surface adapting to weather conditions in real time. "The integration is proceeding faster than projected," she reported to the Joint Council, her voice carrying a note of wonder that had become common in the past few years. "The third generation of hybrid architecture is showing remarkable efficiency. Energy consumption is down 40% from baseline, while structural integrity has improved by a factor of 6. The Joint Council itself was a testament to the partnership's success. Half human, half orc, with representatives from both species sharing power and responsibility. The early days had been turbulent, cultural misunderstandings, political conflicts, and the occasional outbreak of violence. But somehow they had persevered. War Chief Thok, now holding the title of Co-Chancellor, reviewed the latest reports from the colony worlds. The Orc fleet had not been idle during the 5 years of integration. Instead, they had been transformed into an exploration force, seeking new worlds not for conquest but for expansion. 3 new systems have been surveyed, he announced to the Council. All show potential for terraforming using our combined technologies. The joint colonies are thriving, the Orc worlds provide raw materials and defensive capabilities, while the human settlements contribute agricultural and manufacturing expertise. Colonel Mitchell, now serving as the other co-chancellor, nodded approvingly. The former enemies had developed a working relationship built on mutual respect and shared goals. It hadn't been easy. Their species were fundamentally different in their approaches to problem solving, but those differences had proven to be strengths rather than weaknesses. The youth integration programs are showing remarkable results, Mitchell added. The children who have grown up in the integrated schools are developing capabilities either species possessed individually. They're literally evolution in action. This was perhaps the most significant development of the partnership. The biological incompatibilities that had made interbreeding impossible had been solved not through force, but through understanding. Human genetic engineering combined with orc biological manipulation had created a new generation that was neither fully human nor fully orc, but something entirely new. These hybrid children were stronger than humans, more adaptable than orcs, and possessed cognitive abilities that surpassed both parent species. They thought in ways that their parents could barely comprehend, seeing solutions to problems that had baffled both civilizations for generations. There's another development, Dr. Vasquez announced, her voice carrying a note of excitement. The deep space monitoring stations have detected something unusual. Long-range sensors are picking up artificial signals from the Andromeda Galaxy. We're not alone in the universe. The implications were staggering. The partnership between humans and orcs had been forged in the crucible of necessity, but it had evolved into something far greater. Now, as they faced the possibility of contact with other intelligent species, they did so not as two separate civilizations, but as a unified people. Whatever comes, Thok said quietly, his massive form somehow conveying both strength and gentleness. We face it together. Our children will inherit a universe full of possibilities, and they will be prepared for whatever challenges await. Mitchell nodded, his scarred face showing the wisdom that came from surviving impossible odds. The old Earth is gone. The old Garath is gone. But what we've built together is something neither could have achieved alone. We're not just survivors anymore, we're pioneers. As the sun rose over New London, its light reflected off the organic spires that housed both species in harmony. In the parks below, human and orc children played together, their laughter carrying on the wind. In the laboratories, scientists from both species worked side by side, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The war was over. The occupation was ended. In their place, something unprecedented had emerged, a civilization that was greater than the sum of its parts, reaching toward the stars with the combined strength of two species who had learned that their greatest enemy was not each other, but the darkness of despair. The future stretched before them, vast and full of possibilities. And for the first time in generations, both species dared to hope that their children would inherit a universe worth living in. The Crimson Exodus had ended. The Golden Age had begun.